You know, there's no denying that Glock has done more for the striker fire polymer frame market and maybe even concealed carry than any other company since the 80s, but since I've been doing this, which is over a decade now, I haven't seen that much innovation from them. So maybe it's because I'm coming in at a different time or whatever, but today I'm going to tell you 7 pistols that I believe are way better than Glock. Now, just like Chevrolet and Ford, Harley Davidson and Indian, people are really dedicated to the brand of gun they carry. Maybe it's their duty weapon. Maybe they just shoot it really well. Maybe they just really like it. And for that reason, I totally understand. You may have a difference of opinion. You may agree with my opinion. Hell, you may agree with it, but say, hey, I don't think these guns are better, but these are. Whatever that opinion may be, leave it in the comments section down below after the video. And if you like what I do, consider subscribing. Let's go and get into it. Now let me go ahead and say, this video is with the utmost respect for Glock, and just like every video where, you know, I talk about Glock or the topic of Glock comes up or whatever, I respect them for what they've done, and I still hold that respect, of course, but I think that, just in my opinion, from what I see on the consumer side, they just kind of sit on what they have, right? They know that the gun is going to sell. So it's like a new Generation 6 Glock coming up, right? And it could be totally unchanged. Maybe they remove the finger grooves this time. Maybe they add them back on in Generation 6. Maybe they do some front slide serrations or something. I don't know. But primarily they're unchanged, right? I mean, how many Glock rifles would they sell? They couldn't make enough of them. PCCs. I mean, just an AR from Glock, right? That would be crazy, right? Again, they would have to open up 3 more manufacturing plants in order to keep up with that kind of demand. They just don't do it. It's really odd to me. So anyways, let's go and start with the first gun that I think is better than Glock. 2 of the best things that America has to offer are firearms and motorcycles. These are literally ways of life, way more than hobbies. And what makes this motorcycle specifically so great is that I'm actually giving it away to one of y'all. We've partnered up with the same veteran-owned company that we've done giveaways in the past with in order to give y'all a chance to win a $13,000 motorcycle. Now, before you skip through this and like, man, I never win anything, the best part about our giveaways is that we keep the pool of entry small. We're only running this until September 30th of 2024 at 11:59 Pacific Standard Time. It gets cut off. A lot of times these giveaways that we do, there's less than 500 entries. So it really gives you a chance to win something cool. And the price to get into this giveaway is less than what it takes a family of 4 to go to McDonald's. Sad as that is, that's the truth of it. So the way you enter into this one is you click the link in the description. It's the only link down there. That will take you to Headshot Nation. This is a community that I set up for both of our communities here on YouTube to have one place to come to. So not only will you get exclusive videos, ad-free videos, you're going to get early access to videos as well, along with my entire catalog, but courses will be on there coming soon. Also, you will have discount codes, exclusive discount codes that we can set up in the future. Also, you're going to have Q&As. So if you want to, hey, can you compare this gun to this one, or whatever you want to see, you can do all of that on Headshot Nation. If you want to send me a message, I get messages all the time spread out between different areas, and sometimes they just get lost in the comments section. They won't get lost over here. This is our own community that you guys are a big part of, and you get an exclusive download whenever you sign up. So it's 6 months for $50. That gives you an automatic entry to win this over $13,000 motorcycle. Big thanks to everybody that has made this possible, and I'm super stoked to give y'all a chance to win this motorcycle. Again, you got to enter by September 30th, 2024 at 11:59 Pacific Standard Time. Click the link in the description. Get entered to win this incredible motorcycle. Good luck to each one of you. Now, there are some parameters that I have to follow in order to get to this conclusion, because I can't say that a gun is just better just because. It's got to be reliable. That's something Glocks are known for. But it also needs to be around the same price. Keeping in mind that Glock perfection is their slogan, but in order to achieve that perfection, you buy the gun and then, you know, the new sights, upgraded trigger, maybe do a ported slide, or maybe you bought the MOS but now you need to port the barrel, or maybe get a threaded barrel. Maybe you need to do something with the grip because it doesn't fit your hand just right. whatever. You know, there's people that put, you know, so much money into their Gucci Glocks and whatever. You can do whatever you want. But the whole idea here is that, yes, the guns I'm going to show you have been reliable for me personally, but also I think right off the shelf, they are just a better gun where you don't have to change a whole lot to get it to that perfection status. So the first one I'm going to show you here is actually one that I recently reviewed, and this is the Q1 MK23 from Grand Power. Dude, this thing is an absolute shocker to me that it was this good. And one thing that they did is they actually utilize a rotating barrel. Now, this is different, and I talk about all of the specs and how all of this stuff works in the individual reviews, so I'll let that video stand on its own. But there's just a couple of things here that make this gun so crazy, and that rotating barrel is one of them because it's not tilting down, and so you keep that accuracy because that barrel basically is staying in place throughout the entire movement. Another thing you have are super aggressive front and rear slide serrations. This is fantastic if you, anything from, you know, high humidity, sweat on your hands, maybe it's raining, any number of things, just having the confidence to be able to work that slide back whenever you want, do your press checks, and know that you have confidence there is fantastic. Now, one of the biggest things that bothers me with Glock is the grip angle. And while you can learn to shoot any pistol well, every gun I'm going to show you right here, in my opinion, makes shooting easier once you know the fundamentals. None of these guns are going to make you a crazy good shooter, but once you know the fundamentals, there are certain features, like some of the ones we're going to talk about on these guns, that make life a little bit easier. And this is one because you have such an incredible trigger. It's a flat face design. You have the same safety dingus right there in the middle. You hit the wall, very little creep, and it breaks. It's a beautiful thing. Reset right there. It's still audible, still tactile like a Glock, but it's just such a smoother, nicer trigger on this gun. We have a single slotted rail there, so no problem attaching whatever you want to. And then of course we have an optics cut as well. Another area that Glock really sucks is in their standard sights, which come on most of their pistols. You can get night sights and some different options from them, but the majority of them are going to come with those U-notch drop in the bucket type of sights. These are 3-dot variety. Nothing special, but they are much better than what is used on a Glock, and I'll take these any day. Ambidextrous magazine release. Not a huge fan actually of the magazine release on this gun. It actually has like a little bit more resistance than what I personally like. But of course the gun is a little bit bigger too, so I got to camp my hand just a little bit in order to reach that magazine release. Even has a striker indicator back here in the rear. It's got an internal extractor too, which is a little bit different from most modern guns. But that rotating barrel really does a great job, and it points so naturally. This is one of the bigger surprises of the year for me personally, up to this point anyways. And this thing is just awesome, and it comes in under 600 bucks, you know, roughly. And so for a striker fire gun, the Grand Power Q1 MK23 is just a fantastic option, and it's priced well, and it's about the size of what you'll find in like a Glock 17. Now the next gun I think is better than Glock is one that some of you ain't gonna like, but just hear me out. That is the P320. Now, some of you may be aware that Sig actually recently lost a lawsuit talking about the P320 and drop safety issues and all that. What you may not know is there's been like 12 or 13 other cases that have been thrown out. They won a lawsuit back in 2022, and they're going to appeal this recent one. Now, the reason this recent one is important is because initial reports from the guy that had the gun said he had a negligent discharge, and then his story changed. So you got to look at it from both sides. But just like Glock, you know, they have a stupid lawsuit against Glock, or Chicago does, because they say the Glock can be easily converted to full auto. It's just a bunch of crap, okay? And so while Sig has had these allegations thrown against them, one lawsuit that's been won, but many, many others that have been thrown out. And there's a reason for that, because of the steps that Sig took with the voluntary upgrade and the steps that they've taken since to make sure this wasn't an issue. And you know, I know people are going to say, oh, you know, the United States military chose the P320 because it was just the money, right? They had the lowest bid. And, you know, maybe there's some truth to that. But what I can tell you after visiting Sig and finding out the requirements for the P320 shed a little bit different light on it. Basically, in the 80s, when they were choosing the Beretta handgun, they said the accuracy needed to be within a 9 by 11 inch target. 25 meters, 25 shots, I believe, or 20 rounds. The new requirement for the P320 was 25 meters, 25 shots inside of like a 3-inch circle. Now, of course, the best of the best shooters in the world, I mean, it's going to be hard to get 25 shots inside of a 3-inch circle at 25 meters. So, of course, it had to be rested, but they were able to get that. They would force Sig to tear apart all of these batch of handguns, these P320s, mix all the parts together, put the guns back, and if any of them failed, they would throw the entire batch out. And Sig, you know, doing what they do, they were able to secure that contract, and of course that extended to the XM250, the XM7, and beyond. So the P320 is impressive in that way, of course, but it's also impressive in the type of guns that you get. Of course, you know, it started with full size, compact, subcompact, and now it's gone to guns like this. This is the X5 Legion, just a beautiful gun. Uses a 1911 style recoil spring, so they send you like a 14-pound and a 12-pound, and man, this thing is so light. It's almost like 2011 light. Feels really good. You have lightning cuts in the top right here. It's not ported. You have a fiber optic Dawson precision sights actually on this one, and this thing is just incredible. You of course have the AXG, you have the Spectra Comp series. You know, they've gone to a lot of them with the flat face trigger, optics ready, you know, steel frames, polymer frames. You know, they've widened the mag wells on some of them. You just have a ton of different options. And what they've been able to do with this lineup, and I've been here, or I've been reviewing guns since the beginning when they introduced this gun, and to see the evolution, and it's still one of my favorite striker fire platforms ever. So the P320 is definitely one of those guns that's better than Glock. Now this one is a pretty easy choice for me, and you may have saw it coming, but this is the M&P. This one specifically is actually the Spec series that's built on the metal frame. But Smith & Wesson, in my opinion, when it comes to where they came from with the original M&P, or even back to the Sigma series, to now, they've made some of the most significant changes and upgrades to this platform, and they continue to get better. Now we have the new comped versions that comes in the metal, I think the compact, and then the shield as well. Like I said, this one's a little bit more specialized, and yeah, just everything that they've done with the gun is fantastic. First of all, they're made in the United States, right? So is Sig, so that is awesome, right? You also have better slide serrations. This is something I've noticed that they've started to use like on the competitor, and so they're definitely starting to upgrade those a little bit. They've always had good sights. This one actually has night sights to be able to co-witness with your dot, so that is fantastic. It actually has this Faxon compensator up front there. One of the biggest changes though that they've made in the lineup is going to the flat face trigger. They had this really, well, first of all, it was a hinge design, and then they had this like spongy type of feel, and then they would kind of stack up after you got to the wall. So you're pulling through, it would stack for days, and then it would just kind of this mushy pull, right? And then the reset, you couldn't really even feel it or hear it. And so they went from that to the original shield, now to what we have here in the in this series. It's kind of like the M&P M2.5, if you will. And so once you hit the wall, by the way, it does have a blade right there in the middle of the trigger. It's more of a flat face trigger now, or it is a flat face trigger. Overstop travel in the rear. creeps just a little bit, and that trigger breaks. Reset. I know you can hear that on camera. Boom. And this one actually has lightning cuts. Of course, we have that comp up front. This thing is freaking tricked out. So not only is the trigger better, you got metal frames, you got 9, 40, 45, 10 millimeter. What else they got? You know, they even have released their first lever action since their first lever action, the 1854. This thing is fantastic. You know, it's really, really awesome gun. And so they continue to evolve even past the M&P lineup. They even have the 5.7, right? 5.7 by 28, which is really freaking cool. So in my opinion, bang for your buck, value, and the diversity in the lineup and the type of guns they make, and especially in the M&P lineup, this is one of the best, and they probably make the best concealed carry gun, at least in my opinion, which is the Shield Plus. Figure we'll go ahead and throw that one in here. Now this one is interesting because this is the 30 Super Carry. So this is a round that Smith wanted to make for concealed carry specifically. And so that's what they were able to achieve while giving you more capacity than 9mm with similar ballistics. Optics ready. You actually have a nice tritium insert in that front with a nice orange dot, and then you have tritium blacked out in the rear. Again, that flat face trigger is just fantastic. One of the best shooting small guns, man. At 25 yards, I feel so confident with this thing. Not that you'll ever use it out to that distance for self-defense purposes, but man, this thing, it's just awesome. Now, you know, 30 Super Carry has not taken off, maybe more or less than they've anticipated, but more guns get chambered in it, more production, price comes down. Needs to get closer to 9mm. But just the fact that they did this, and even if you say, hey, I don't want to take a chance on 30 Super Carry, I want to go with a proven round like 9mm, for instance, well, then the 9mm Shield Plus is, again, one of the best options. I actually think it's still the best carry gun on the market. I would go with the optics ready version. You can go with the 3.1 inch barrel or the 4-inch barrel. That choice is up to you. Performance Center versions too. But when it comes to this versus something like the 43X or even a 26, I'm going to take this gun. While you don't have the compatibility like you do with the 26 for all of your magazine options with the 19s, the 17s, so on and so forth, you do have extended mag capacity with the 30 Super Carry. You're going to get an additional 2 rounds in the gun. And then, of course, in 9mm, you have 10, 13, and 15 round options. That's pretty freaking good for a carry gun that is 1 inch wide. And also has a better trigger, better sights. And it's going to be about the same or cheaper than a Glock 43X. Now, while I respect what Glock has done for polymer frame striker fire guns, they weren't the first to do it, and not by far. Actually, a decade before, H&K made the VP70 and then, of course, the P7. And these guns predated the Glock by a lot, right? Like I said, up to a decade. I think the VP70 came out in the early 70s. And so while that gun didn't take off, you know, like the Glock platform did, the P7 was actually made up until 2008. So they made that gun for a really long time. And HK has since made a name for themselves in other areas, right? They have one of the most iconic SMGs on the planet with the MP5. But talking about their striker fire gun, the VP9, it's just on another level. So where I see this gun, where it really shines for me, first of all, it has a decent trigger. I used to call this trigger fantastic. I'd say it's still really, really good. There's some triggers out there that I think are better. I think the M&P, the new M&P trigger that I just showed you is a little better. And yeah, definitely another 1 or 2 on this list. But this one's really good. You have the option for the paddle release, right? So it's naturally ambidextrous, which once you get used to this, man, it is a quick system. You can always be indexing the gun, have it ready, boom, 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 drop that mag, insert a new one, be ready to go. But with all of that said, by the way, ambidextrous slide stop release there. They are optics ready now. This is the L, the long slide version. You got to buy the additional plates. They're like 29 bucks. And the number 2 plate is probably going to be the most popular one. That'll fit Trijicon, Holosun, Shield. So anyways, you have all of that, right? Buy your plate, 29 bucks if that's something that you want to do. I wish they would send it with the gun. They don't, whatever. They also now come with the 20 round magazines, okay, which is always awesome, or 17 rounds. But where this gun really shines, or really shines, is in the ergonomics. Because not only can you change this back strap, but you can change these side panels. And I've talked about this before. It really makes a difference. So if you want to go maybe a little bit larger on the left side, maybe thin it out on the right, it really just depends. You just have to kind of play around with it. But most guns, you can change the back strap, right? But you can't change the side panels. So that could affect how well it fills up certain parts of your hand. But with this one, you can. And just aside from that, once you get the feel that you want, this gun points so naturally and it feels so good in the hand. It really is one of the best ones out there. Of course, they're made in Germany, and they are just freaking super quality, right? These things are built tough. And yeah, when it comes to a striker fire gun that I will recommend pretty much any day over a Glock, the HK VP9L is right up there. By the way, they do have a match grade version of this gun as well if you want maximum accuracy. I've never seen a problem with this gun, but I would like to actually get one of those plates and put a dot on this thing and then see how much better I really can be with this, because it's good with iron sights, but man, if I can get a dot on this thing, it would probably be even better. And you're talking about one of the best and coolest home defense guns, duty guns, competition gun even. So this is a great option. The best value pretty much for any manufacturer when it comes to striker fire guns, and that is Canik. This one specifically is the SFX Rival Dark Side. They now have a stainless version, of course, but I still really love this gun. I put a little bit cheaper, right, sight mark on here, and this thing just continues to run, and I'm going to keep running it like this until the sight dies or whatever, or I decide to get a new one. But man, this thing has just been incredible. The gun itself, though, is where I'm really impressed. So you of course have a bunch of lightning cuts. It's kind of like a custom slide straight from the factory. You know, there was guys years ago paying big money to have this kind of quality work done on their individual slides. Well, now a lot of these companies are doing this straight from the factory. So it's kind of hard to imagine a world without guns like this now, like that new M&P I was telling you about, or your Sigs, you know, and all these other companies that are doing this stuff. But man, these kind of jobs cost a lot of money back then when you were just doing one or two. But now, you buy them from the factory, and you're talking about a gun for less than 600 bucks a lot of the time. Hard case, 2 mags, cleaning kit, freaking, you know, Canik will give you holsters with a lot of their guns. I mean, optics plates, right? HK ain't gonna give you nothing for free. You probably know that if you're familiar with H&K. These guys, they give you 5 plates with the SFX Rival. The best budget striker fired gun, considering everything you get, and plus, this is a big one, this gun will outperform almost every single gun I've showed you so far, simply because not only does it point supernaturally, not only do you have the ability to change that back strap, it actually comes with the extended or a flared magwell or a standard one, but man, you got one of the best triggers of any gun that can call itself a striker fire gun. It is really incredible. Flat face, super little travel. The safety trigger bar in the middle folds in really naturally. It does its job, but it folds in naturally, right? And so you pull just a little bit, you hit the wall, and it just pulls through. Seriously, this is as close to single action 1911 style or 2011 style guns as you can get. It is seriously on another level. But it's not just the SFX Rival. The Canik Mete, right, which is another really good concealed carry option. Fortunately, that gun totally redeemed itself. here recently. So I'm really happy to report that, but that's another great value, great shooting gun. Canik really makes some of the best. They have that new one in cooperation with Terran Tactical, right? So that is a cool option. Canik just makes some really, really fine guns at a price that a lot of people can afford, and that is always a fantastic thing. That leads me to another fantastic value. MSRP on these things under 500 bucks. Just depends on where you go. Of course, I can't tell you where to go here on YouTube, but you know what I'm saying. But this is one of the best budget striker fire guns from a reputable company out there, and still continues to impress me. They actually have a new threaded version that's optics ready that I'd like to get here soon. That is the CZ P10, either the C or the full size. The C is going to be more in line with like your Glock 19, full size, of course, Glock 17. This one, white tritium sights in the rear. You have the orange bright dot up front with that tritium insert, front and rear slide serrations. This one is more like a traditional striker fire gun, so it's going to ride on top of the rails, of course. Magazine release has been improved over this original version. These things kind of were a little iffy, man. Sometimes you press them in as hard as you can and they would just stick on you really badly. They've improved that design, which is great. Another reason I want to try the new ones. Single slotted rail there. Feels really great in the hand. Super low bore axis, so if that's something that you like on a Glock, great. But if you're looking for a gun that points way more natural than a Glock, in my opinion, the CZ P10 is still one of the best options. And again, MSRP on these things is 500 bucks. I think on the original ones like this, MSRP is somewhere like $400. So you can get these things at a really screaming deal. If you're on a budget, this is one of the guns I've recommended a lot. Ambidextrous slide stop, ambidextrous magazine release, full-time ambi at that. Easy to break down, easy to clean, but it also has a really awesome trigger. Little bit of creep, stacks up just a little bit maybe. Reset, right there. So while it's got a little bit more weight than what you'll find on the SFX Rival, which is more of a competition gun, so that makes sense. Maybe more in line with what you'll find on the VP9 as far as the weight, maybe a little heavier. Still better than a Glock, right? And I shoot this gun, I'm like, oh, I don't have to do a trigger job on this. This thing shoots awesome. Now on Glock, it's like, I probably do. Like I said, man, when it comes to value, these guys just do a fantastic job. For their first striker fire gun ever, they really nailed it with the CZ P10 series. But then the CZ Shadow 2. One of the most copied guns in the world, which is the CZ75, but this just takes CZ75 to a whole nother level. Now again, this is much more expensive than what you will find on a Glock, but I wanted to throw it in here because I just like having a reason to take this gun to the range. It's heavy, it's an all steel gun, beautiful blue grips on there, man. There's something about black and blue. I really like blue grips for some reason. I guess that's why I went with the Smith & Wesson 1911 with those blue G10 style grips. I mean, it just looks freaking awesome. But they also have the orange grip version. They have an optics ready, which is what I would go with now if I were to get one. The rails, of course, the slide actually rides on the inside of the rails, so that keeps the bore axis nice and low, even though it's a hammer fire gun. And you have a good double action, right? Nothing wrong with that at all. Single action though, just, yeah, it's incredible. Double action is good, right? It's manageable. It's heavier, of course, but still, that single action is fantastic. This one actually came, I believe, with 3 17-round mags too when I bought it. Overall, man, if you're looking for like a really good higher capacity counterpart to something like a 1911, the CZ75 or CZ Shadow 2, excuse me, is such a fantastic option. And again, when you talk about a gun that points very similar to a 1911, that is what I think of in that Shadow 2. The thing is just freaking sweet. Not really comparable with a Glock, but again, I just like having a reason to bring this one out. And the last one, that I will show you today in this video anyways, in this first part of every gun better than Glock, will be the X-Macro. So Sig came out and they said, all right, how can we make the P365 any better, right? You started with the 10 round gun, you went to the 12 round and the XL, the Spectra Comp, but then they come out with this one, which is 17 rounds. Now, flat face trigger, of course, just like the XL. You have the X-ray day-night sights, and you have a gun now, well, there's three different options. You have ported, which has a little bit shorter barrel. Then you have this one that has the 3.7-inch barrel, but it's not ported. This one is actually the TAC Ops. You have the base, TAC Ops, and then the comped version. But now you also have the new one, which is the Fuse. And they've now introduced a 21-round mag on that one. Optics ready, some of the best pistol sights that you will find on any handgun, period. And the grip feels really good. It's not too aggressive, but it feels good and it points naturally. Better trigger than what you'll find on a Glock. Extended controls on this one anyways. And again, when you look at the height of the gun, you may be, yeah, but that thing's so much longer than, you know, like a 43X. Well, yeah, it's 0.2 of an inch longer than the 43X, and yet it offers 7 additional rounds. The new Fuse, which is a little bit longer as far as the overall length, which doesn't really matter to a lot of people when they're carrying inside the waistband, but the height of that gun is actually just 1/10 of an inch longer than a 43X. This is impressive. And so I think everything that I've shown you, it's a good list of guns. Quality manufacturers, right? So it's going to live up to Glock reliability, right? And Glock has not always been the most reliable gun. They had issues with their Gen 4. You know, you've seen hit or mid issues with Gen 5s, but you know, a lot of times you don't know if that's user related or anything. So I'm not going to hold it against them. All I'm saying is that every manufacturer goes through you know, issues that they may have. If they correct them quickly, right, and they're actually doing what they're supposed to do, that's where I'm like, okay, they actually did a really good thing there. But I think what I gave you here is a bunch of companies that are offering a wide variety of different types of guns to meet different shooters' needs. So no matter if that's competition, home defense, concealed carry, or anything in between, they are actually trying to give people what they want and or need. And so I really appreciate that. I appreciate the innovation, even from companies that I haven't had great experiences with, that may have not made this list. Maybe they will in the future, and it may not even be a gun that I'm a fan of, but if they're trying different things and they're succeeding with that, that's obviously the best thing. But even if they are just trying to introduce something new, Kel-Tec is one of those companies. They got a lot of guns I don't like, but they continue to innovate, and generally speaking, they make a reliable product. So that is really great, man. All of these guns, in my opinion, are better than Glock, and I recommend them way more than I ever do any Glock. But of course, you may think I'm totally wrong, and if you do, I want to hear your opinion. If you agree and want to leave your own list of guns that maybe I can include in a part 2, let me know that down below as well. Big thanks to you guys for watching. See you in the next one, and as always, hold them down.